Hi, folks. Welcome to Tuesday. Is it Tuesday? Tuesday's
It is indeed.
iWrite Radio podcast stroke videocast. Well, the news has suddenly gone totally political instead of just a bit political. Ian Murray has tweeted a clip of a BBC documentary. I think we can safely say the gloves are off now. Nicola Sturgeon's doing too good a job, and the state broadcaster has to get the boot in. I don't know if you guys watched the documentary last night, Stewart.
I saw trailers and bits. It's the usual sort of SNP bad story. They do it all the time. They've been doing it for 20 years.
But we're all supposed to be on the same side now. That's kind of the point I'm making. Jimmy, your thoughts on it?
I thought it was a crock of shit, mate. It's the usual BBC Scotland disclosure thing. They've got a track record of picking up other people's stories, presenting them as exclusives, and telling you that everything that is in their programme is to be believed. Given the way it's been slapped down and rubbished this morning by the Scottish Government, nothing in their programme is to be believed.
Well, as I say, this was tweeted by... God, I've forgotten his name. That's how important he is to me.
Oh, the only Labour MP in Scotland. My goodness, didn't they used to dominate Scotland?
Yeah, Ian Murray. So we're going to play it, but what I'd like viewers and listeners to be aware of is the music and the voice, the timbre of the voice during this. It's like something out of a Dracula movie.
Aye.
So here you go. Here's the clip, folks.
We can reveal the virus was already in the capital. Nike stores in the UK and around the world closed their doors for a deep clean. A number of Nike staff had tested positive, and they all had one thing in common. They had been at a conference here in Edinburgh at the Hilton Carlton around the 26th and 27th of February. Nike delegates had poured in from all over the world, but one of them had brought more than just a suitcase and infected a number of their Nike colleagues with COVID-19. We've discovered 25 confirmed COVID cases have since been linked to this one conference in Edinburgh. The public were not told the virus had been spreading in the capital in February or of the risk that posed.
It's superb, mate. It's like a piss-poor attempt at a tartan noir novel.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah, but can I just, before we get into the nitty-gritty, they started off with a picture of Greyfast Bobby. Now, the first rumour about COVID-19 arriving in Edinburgh was that it was a Chinese tourists. They all go down and see Greyfast Bobby. Usually they just used to rub his nose, and that's why it's bright bronze. But in the last few years, Chinese tourists have been kissing his nose. So the theory was that this is where COVID-19 first arrived in Edinburgh. And they showed that picture. For those of you who haven't seen this clip, that's how it started.
Stewart, I've got to tell you, mate, the Chinese tourists have offered in my taxi would need to be giving each other a collie bucket or a hoisty to get up to Greyfast Bobby's nose to kiss it.
I'm just like, and we've discovered 25 people. Well, actually, no. The health service,
25 people.
Well, the health service tracked and traced them.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they know there's 25 people.
And also, is it interesting that they're desperate to tell you that COVID had been spreading in Edinburgh in February. The Nike conference was the 27th of February.
And the authorities didn't get to hear about it till the 2nd of March. And apparently only 8 of those 25 were Scottish.
And how long would it take to initiate a lockdown on the back of it? You can't just lock down the next day.
That's what BBC went on to tell us, that had we locked down then, when we knew about it, we could have saved 2,000 lives. I've got to say about that, it reminds me very much of that typical old Scottish saying, if my auntie had boys, she'd be my uncle. It's absolutely the worst kind of hindsightery I've ever seen.
Well, the best of it is, Jimmy.
Sorry, if we'd locked down after New Year, we could have saved everybody. Nobody would have got COVID. The problem is we've not got crystal ball.
Aye, and if we'd locked down after New Year, can you imagine the BBC headlines?
Oh God,
Scotland
aye.
goes its own way. Who the hell do these people think they are?
They would
in
go
Hollywood?
absolutely ape.
Oh,
I mean, there's questions to be asked. The questions to be asked for me are, why are BBC suggesting that the Scottish Government should have acted unilaterally when the Scottish Government didn't have the powers to act unilaterally? No emergency powers had been passed in the UK Parliament to give the Scottish Government the authority to lock down.
and they had no way to pay. Furlough.
Absolutely no way to pay. There would have been no furlough scheme for Scots. And do you think if we'd locked down prior to England, they would have included us in their furlough scheme?
Actually, my biggest disappointment in the whole thing is they didn't play the soundtrack from that shark movie. You know, the...
Aye. Well, as I say, mate, they've got BBC Scotland investigates and disclosure. They've got previous for being absolute tinfoil bonnet wearing nuts. I mean, you ken it's grim when your biggest fan, your biggest supporter, and the person who tweets you everything, even before the programme goes out because he's that well in with the programme makers, is Neil the Bobag Finlay.
Well, was he a brickie and then a teacher, Neil Finlay?
I've no idea, mate, but I'm quite sure that he'll have a career at being a union official once he gets himself.
Aye, he does come out of the union.
Yeah, well, he could have been a bricklaying teacher.
I know, it's just, I had it in my head that at some point in his career he was a brickie. But I do know he did
I struggle
teach.
with the teacher thing because I follow him on Twitter and he really writes like a 12-year-old. So if he was a teacher,
he might have been an art teacher. Who knows? Anyway, I'll need to look that one up, folks. I might be spreading fake news there. Our sort of take on this is, well, my take on this is that the gloves are off now. Nicola Sturgeon has done too good a job and they need to bring her down a peg or two. So I expect to see a lot of stories that involve wee Malky, the Castle Milk, who infected 17 people because he went to the pub. Okay, it was before lockdown. He didn't know he was infectious, but the Scottish Government should have had a tag on him.
Because he been tagged and we should have been following him. I
actually got it slightly wrong. It should have been wee mental Malky.
Mm-hmm. Did you hear that one of these idiots for the press, his question to Nicola Sturgeon, trying to stir that particular pot, was, I stayed in that hotel a week later, and if I'd known that they'd been kicking about, then I might not have chose to stay in that hotel, to which Nicola slapped him down gently with, well, if they'd stayed and you stayed a week later, there was no chance of any COVID being in that hotel that you could have caught a week later, you horse's arse.
Because
you've been questioning me for a month and you don't understand that the disease does not live for a week on hotel sheets, you fud.
I do quite like the idea as well that Nike deep cleaning their shops because they knew it had happened. That's a terrible thing. Well, actually, no, it's not. It's exactly the thing they should do to try and protect the public. It's
Nike done everything right. Public Health Scotland done everything right, and the donuts of the press are absolutely raging that their one of their heroes, Mr. Is it Grady or Brady or whatever his name is, has made a pig's lug of a story and they can't use it as a hammer. Because that's what they were hoping for the day.
Well, I think the other point worth saying is she dealt with it very well. Mm-hmm. Very well. You know, and I mean, she didn't say that this was one. By the time she heard, there must have been several outbreaks.
Right, that wouldn't have been the first one.
Well, she did get questioned about why could you say it was somebody from Italy in Fife and you couldn't say it was somebody from Timbuktu in the Nike case. There was only 70 people there. So it's a high infection rate.
I'm more concerned about the fact that a multinational company like Nike thinks it's acceptable to bring people to Edinburgh and put them in a shite hotel like that.
It has gone downhill a bit, I have to say.
Nike make masses of profits. They really have little consideration for their staff, putting them there.
Well, we've had our say. So here's a wee clip of somebody with a little bit more gravitas than us having his say about the whole thing.
Oh, putting us in.
I'm without ego these days, guys.
I don't think herd immunity has ever gone away in all of this. It's been lurking in the background as a fallback position for a failure to get to grips with this, to do the testing and to control it. We had late lockdown, and now we've got all this talk about easing off of the lockdown. God knows how that's supposed to make things better. We've seen that we've still got the virus circulating in the community. We're still getting quite large numbers of new cases every day. The curve of the deaths has not come down as steeply as in other countries that have got on top of things. And we've still got the real prospect of the virus leaking out from hospital environments with hospital staff, from care home environments with care home staff, from prison environments with prison staff. And that all of these things could reignite the pandemic here at home among that population that hasn't got resistance. And we think that probably still a relatively small proportion of the population has got immunity, having been exposed to it, but we don't know. We just don't know because we haven't been doing the testing.
I'm going to let the
At this stage, 3 months into this pandemic, thanks for listening. Please let us have feedback, add comments, and let us have any questions. And support Double Down News, Patreon, the future of broadcasting, the future of the news. Thank you very much.
Well, you never said you were going to play all that shite.
Well, I think it's worth letting that run.
Well, I don't agree. You should have cut it off sharp.
Well, Double Down News is a great resource.
Well, there you go. But you still spoilt the show by playing the whole thing.
Oh, right. Sorry, mate. I'll go and shoot myself.
Yeah, well, why not?
Well, you got a problem with Double Down News, like?
Not a problem at all.
Oh, people should know other news sources to go to, and that's one of them. So, effectively, his position is it's been a total clusterfuck from start to finish.
Well, look, when you've got the Prime Minister of this country saying that there's a possibility there'll be 500,000 deaths from COVID, and that apparently COVID is now can leak into the water supply. I mean, anything's possible now.
It's a bit much when the regulators have to reaffirm the fact that it's not in the water supply and can't get into the water supply because the Prime Minister utters some Trumpist fuddliness at the dispatch box.
Apparently,
it can get into the sewage supply, but it's very unlikely that it would ever get into the fresh water supply.
Apparently, they think they can test in sewers to give them some idea of the coverage of the virus.
Oh, that's how they like test for cocaine, isn't it, as well? They test the sewage to find out how much cocaine's in a community.
Right, okay. Now, I'm sorry. We know people that'll be down there sniffing it.
You're not going to dry the sewer water for what you could get a line of, mate, trust me.
Anyway, one last thing I want to say about Mr. Boris Johnson. The producer of Newsnight, who apparently on the programme that none of the government will go on, has tweeted that sound you hear is the British nation state creaking loudly again. Sturgeon has effectively acted as the Prime Minister of Scotland in this crisis. Johnson being PM of the UK has largely meant First Minister of England. Would have been unthinkable only a few decades ago. What a state that man Johnson is in. Surely his government can't survive.
I see, guys, we're in Scotland. We do see it from a Scottish perspective, and I think we all think we're very lucky to have Nicola Sturgeon in charge. But the English are not going to see it that way. Are the English even going to know Nicola Sturgeon's on the horizon? I don't think so. They're not going to be watching our daily broadcasts. You know, I mean, Boris Johnson's what they've got. And, you know,
And they got the press they've got as well, and the TV
No,
channels they've got.
Fortunately, come on, Nicola's probably had the most UK-wide press coverage in the last few weeks than she ever got during any general election campaign, and it's been 99% positive.
Aye, but I think we still have to remember that we're political anoraks. The vast majority of people will be paying no attention at all.
Yeah,
None
I think
at
you
all.
might be wrong. I think you might be wrong there, mate. I speak
Well,
to people in Wales and London and Sweden and what have you, and they are seeing what's going on
well,
and
look at all the
are
people.
laughing at. They're laughing at England, mate. The whole world's laughing at England. The
It's
whole
not
world's
funny.
laughing at Boris.
I know it's, yeah, I mean, you want to say that, and I want to say that, but it's really not funny. It's extremely dangerous. People are dying because of this idiot.
Well, I mean, my point, I think, is underlined by the fact there's people driving to Wales and being stopped on the border because they don't understand that there's a Welsh government in control in Wales and it's an English Tory government in control in England.
No, mate, that's going to happen anyway because the English think they own Scotland and think they own Wales. That's how they've always thought.
But I'm talking about, in the nicest possible way, ignorance rather than stupidity.
Well, do we need
People
to...
don't know. They actually do not know. And if they do know, they don't understand.
They didn't even listen when they're
evolution.
told. Boris told them in Parliament yesterday that they can't go to Wales, that they can't go to Scotland. He said it at the dispatch box, and they still plan to do it anyway.
Well, but they think they think they can go to the Lake District, but the police in the Lake District are saying, don't come.
Unfortunately, that's a weird one, that one, because in theory, what Boris has said gives them every right to go to the Lake District. But the police didn't want to deal with them.
It says, before considering travelling to the Lake District, please grab a brew, examine this map and take a long, hard look at your own conscience. Use your common sense and don't come.
Is that a police statement?
Yes, South Lakes Police. Cumbria is the worst place in England for COVID.
Wow, that's pretty heavy for the if that's a genuine police statement, that's fairly heavy stuff. Because they're effectively telling Boris to stick up his jacksie.
Well, was it the West Yorkshire Police Federation? Admittedly, there was a federation, which is really a political body, but usually the Police Federation kind of backed Tory governments. But they said that Boris's messages prior to last weekend made what lockdown was in place in England completely unenforceable.
Wow.
That
is a major thing. That makes me begin to think you might have a case, Stewart.
What, herd immunity is still the policy?
No, about whether the government will stand. If the police are turning around telling people that this lockdown should continue, at least at the travel level.
Well, we need to mention it's not just Northern Ireland, Wales, Scotland, it's London Mayor, Manchester Mayor, it's now Cumbria Police, it's West Yorkshire Police Federation. We don't even know how many other people are complaining. He's, the Prime Minister of the First Minister of England has really screwed it up.
Aye, well, mate, come on. Camilla Tominey, Norrie, he's even lost the bold Camilla. Even she is slating him on the front page of the Telegraph this morning. That's how bad it's got. Camilla Tominey is having a go at Boris. I'm pretty sure she was having a go with Boris a few years ago.
I have noticed that the Telegraph hasn't been backward at coming forward on occasion.
A lot of his friends in the press are stomping on him a wee bit, mate.
Well, I get the impression that the Telegraph thought they were going to be able to run this, and that he's been so stupid that they can't associate themselves with him anymore.
Aye, they're having to disassociate themselves from what they thought was their pet Prime Minister in Downing Street.
Well, his wee speech, his statement in Westminster yesterday in the Commons highlighted why he did a pre-record for his statement to the nation, because he was all over the place. He had no idea what he was talking about. Or if he did, his communication skills are zero.
He's the worst Prime Minister that's ever stood at that dispatch box ever since they televised it.
who would have thought that a few months in, Theresa May would start to look like the better option?
I know, it's amazing.
Well, it's interesting. Somebody else was speculating about how Theresa May would have dealt with this, and the basic premise was that she would have done a lot better because she's a miserable, serious person.
I think also the fact that she'd had so many years in the Home Office, she would have taken a far more hawkish attitude to locking things down quicker, and she would have taken advice from the chief constables, the Association of Chief Police Officers. What can I do? How can I lock this country down? And how can I do it quickly? I think it just would have been a far more professional operation if Theresa was still there. Which is a worrying thing to say, given how shite a Prime Minister she was.
I think I would have had to check her husband's CV before I agreed with she would have locked down quicker or later. Because a lot of her decisions seem to gel kind of closely to his business interests.
He's a hedge fund man, wouldn't he? So, I mean, he can make money whether the market goes up or down, as long as he's got insider information.
He's also got money in chemical cannabis, and lo and behold, chemical cannabis got put on the statute book while May was in charge, didn't it?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So there's some, well, it was a good thing to do, but questionable, not a Tory thing to do at all.
Medical cannabis, Norrie, medical cannabis.
Chemical
cannabis is that spice malarkey that
I was about to say the same. It's bad stuff.
Is that chemical cannabis any good for joint pain, Jimmy? Because I could probably get some.
I've no idea, mate. I've never been anywhere near such nefarious articles.
I'm asking the wrong expert, obviously.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else strike anybody today? Ruth Wishart's piece in The National, which she also blogged, was quite good.
Again, she's very good. She's a very good writer, so is very good at summarising what I'm thinking. She's obviously listening.
So good writers are ones that agree with you.
Absolutely.
Nicely put, Norman.
Well, you see, I like Alex Massey, and I don't agree with him very much.
No, I like Alex.
He's a good writer.
Yeah, he lives in Selkirk, I think. Plays cricket in Selkirk.
Last time I saw him was in the pub, halfway up the halfway house. In fact, as it was, it's something else now.
What do you mean, near mine?
No, the one on the walk.
Oh, I can, near Jingling Geordie. Downstairs for Jingling Geordies.
No, on the walk.
Oh, the walk. I was thinking halfway up the stairs.
No, it's up at the.
Our listeners are going to be thinking we know every pub in Edinburgh if we carry on.
Well, I would be very surprised if we didn't between us.
Aye.
I've tried.
My problem is I keep calling them by the name they had 20 years ago.
I was going to say, Norrie, there's not been a halfway house on the walk for a long time.
Aye.
I did.
Good for you, well.
Small change of subject. I did see that Richard Murphy, our favourite tax expert, has tweeted after yesterday's last few days' performance by the government. Has the government hired Prince Andrew's PR team?
Probably. I don't know. Are they related to Dominic Cummings in any way, shape, or form? Because if they are, they will have employed them.
Yeah.
Well, that's where your Graham Brady's and your Steve Bakers and that start to come into play again, mate, because Boris has been given his head here. Boris and Dominic have been allowed to run this thing, and they've run it incredibly badly. And whatever else you think of the Tory party, they do not suffer fools gladly. And right now, Boris, Dominic, Isaac Levido, the whole team are making the Conservative Party look ludicrous. I know they've got 4 years to go before another election, but they do have to win some local elections next year. They do have to show up, make a decent showing in the Scottish election next year. And I think there's going to be incredible political pressure on Boris. It's maybe a bit early for him to fire Dominic Cummings. I think he'll wait for a year before the next election for that. But I think that Mr. Levido will be getting the bum's rush shortly. Somebody's going to get the blame for this, and it will be the backroom staff and probably Matt Hancock, because let's be honest, nobody likes him anyway.
Well, we've got to think ahead to the real money behind the throne. And they're thinking about Brexit, and they're thinking about their investment in Brexit, and they're thinking about their ideology. They're thinking about their American investors that are waiting in the wings to buy up the NHS, etc. Now, what are they thinking?
I think what they're thinking is they'll hold on to Boris until the brouhaha of Brexit is over. He gets to carry the can for everything. He gets to carry the can for the virus mess up. He gets to carry the can for Brexit when that goes wrong. And then they get rid of him and they put in a real hard nut. Who it'll be, I have no idea. But somebody that'll just take us straight back to austerity and make sure that the 1% get their coffers refilled. But it'll be it'll be a lot tidier if they get all this ladled onto Boris's back and they can blame him.
That's true, because there's every likelihood that I still think Donald Trump, I'm not so sure about Joe Biden, but I still think Donald Trump can't win this election for where he is to now. So that could be the whole Western world gets new leadership at the same time. Let Trump fall in November, let Boris fall about February, and you've got a new president and a new prime minister, a new broom, and we all think things are back to some level of wonderfulness, where in reality, you're right, we'd be straight back to austerity and the 1% filling their boots.
Here's a question for you. What is going to be the platform that the Scottish Conservatives fight the Holyrood election on?
God only knows.
God only knows. They're making such a mess of it just now. They're attacking devolution the way they are. They don't understand how negative it's coming across. They're just adding votes to the SNP every day.
So do you think they'll go with the union again?
What have they got? What else have they got? Well, they're going to say the SNP behaved badly. Well,
I think, well, whoever their strategists are must be sitting scratching their head, because that could really backfire on them. If we come out of this we don't even have to look a lot better than England, but if we come out of this looking a bit better than England, they start screaming about the union, folk are going to shake their heads and go on, wait a minute, what do we need the union for? We got through the worst pandemic in over 100 years with a Scottish government.
Well, maybe they can. Maybe on you go, Jimmy. Sorry.
It was maybe the extension of the furlough thing. The day will give them the excuse to go on about the broad shoulders and how much Scotland couldn't have done it without the UK money, which is a nonsense, given that we know that Scotland is being given our own revenues back, or a percentage of them, and that if we were independent, clearly we'd have the exact same access to world capital markets that London's got.
Well, I hate to say this, but there's an argument brewing there anyway, that if Scotland doesn't have its own currency, it wouldn't have had the freedom to do what the UK was able to do.
Right, but also don't forget the oil. Things are not going to change that much in the next 10 or 15 years. That oil, as long as it's under the ground, under the sea, it's going to back any Scottish currency. As long as it's there, they don't have to sell it. It's just got to be there.
As collateral.
Yeah.
Not even as collateral, mate. When you look at the energy paucity of our neighbours, Wales, Northern Ireland, England, all require energy. They all import it, and we export it. That's what the world banks would look at and say, if Scotland needs 50 billion, they've got 50 billion worth of sales next year in energy, and it doesn't need to be oil. It can be the renewable stuff that's coming on stream every few weeks in Scotland. We've got more renewable energy than we can with a day with.
Yeah.
I do have to think, as a long-term project, and it was an SNP project, the renewables was a great idea.
It is. It's a fabulous idea, mate. We should have been
great idea.
We should have been into that in the 70s and 80s. Mind old Stephen Salter with his ducks.
Aye.
He ended up over in Norway because Edinburgh University binned him. We should have been doing this years ago.
if we can harness wave power, we're in an incredibly good position.
And
tidal as well, because the tides are
particularly-
the tides are predictable. You can, there's always going to be the tide running fast. Every rush hour.
Some of these underwater turbine schemes that they're trialing are coming out with incredible results. And these are
Seem to be
the
doing
sort of
well,
stuff
yeah.
that we're working on now. If you can actually get to manufacturing them, boom, you've got a jump in manufacturing jobs, and we've got, what, 2,500 miles of coastline to be deploying them in.
That's the possible fail, isn't it? That we don't have the engineering and the steel that we need at home
Yeah.
to grab that piece of the market.
However, we could always look to our Chinese partners. They could supply us steel at a good price and a wee bit of engineering assistance. Or perhaps our European partners, they still produce an awful lot of steel in Europe, and they'd be more than happy to go into partnership with the world's newest independent country.
If Donald Trump wins the next US election, there'll be no talking at the Chinese lads. They'll be put in lockdown the minute they step off the plane in some wee metal box in the middle of the Arizona desert.
Nah, mate, I think you'll find it'll be the Yanks that get put in lockdown. If Donald Trump wins the next election, the world will build a wall around America for him and tell them, Ken, what? Just you stay in your country. You're now not the biggest economy on the planet. Take your armies back to your own wee country as well, and the rest of the world will get on with their life. It'd be a lot easier with the Yanks.
Well, remember the name of that storm that everybody laughed at in Scotland? What was it called? Oh, Bobag.
Bobag.
Every time I see Trump these days, I just think Bobag. And look what he did yesterday. Oh, you've got that lined up now.
I'm actually going to finish with a clip of Donald Trump, really to make us realize how lucky we are with even the worst of our politicians don't get into his league. Even Boris makes Trump look like an idiot, and that's not easy. Will we call it a day at that, guys?
Yeah. I think so, yes.
Okay, thanks, Stewart Lockhead, Jimmy Hutton. I'm Norrie Stewart. Thanks for listening, folks. We're going to finish, as I said, with a wee clip of Donald Trump. I don't know. He really should wear a nappy when he goes to these press conferences.
Maybe that's why he done it. Maybe he'd filled his nappy and needed to get away.
Well, I called it Trump with a hump.
Here we go.
Said many times that the U.S. is doing far better than any other country when it comes to testing.
Yes.
Why does that matter? Why is this a global competition to you if every day Americans are still losing their lives and we're still seeing more cases every day?
Well, they're losing their lives everywhere in the world. And maybe that's a question you should ask China. Don't ask me, ask China that question, okay? When you ask them that question, you may get a very unusual answer. Yes, behind you, please.
Sir, why are you saying that to me specifically?
I'm telling you, I'm not saying it specifically to anybody. I'm saying it to anybody that would ask a nasty question like that.
That's not a nasty question.
Please go ahead.
Why does it matter?
Okay, anybody else? Please, go ahead in the back, please.
I have two questions.
No, it's okay.
But you pointed to me. I have two questions, Mr. President.
Next, please.
But you called on me.
I did, and you didn't respond, and now I'm calling on
Sorry, I just
the young lady in the back, please.
I just wanted to let my colleague finish.
Okay.
But can I ask you
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
That's supposed to be a grown-up man in charge of the world.
I need to reach for the rum bottle after that.
It wasn't funny, but my God. Okay, guys, we'll call it a day at that. Thanks, folks, and we'll catch you tomorrow. Cheers for now.